So here we have a problem asking us to decide if the function is a polynomial. That's the first part here. We're either going to say, yes, it is a polynomial, or we're going to say, no, it's not. If we decide that it is a polynomial, then we got to do the following things. Write it in standard form and identify the degree and the leading coefficient. If it's not a polynomial, then we won't do those things. So our first part here, is it a polynomial? Yes or no? Well, as a reminder, when we're trying to decide if a function is a polynomial, we want to look term by term. Now notice here there's 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. And what we're going to look for, is there any term that would disqualify this from being a polynomial? And just a reminder, I've got here some examples of terms that are not polynomials. So any of these here would not be a polynomial. Take a look. If we have a negative exponent, not a polynomial. If we have an x or a variable in the bottom of a fraction, not a polynomial. Also, if we have an exponent on top of our variable, that's not a whole number. So if it's a fraction like this example, or if it's a decimal, not a polynomial. Another thing to look out for is a variable inside of a square root. All of these, not polynomial. And if we saw just one of those, we're going to say no. But otherwise, if we don't find any of those disqualifying terms, then we're going to say, yes, it is a polynomial. By the way, these are examples of all of these terms are okay. Right? So we can have a negative if it's a coefficient. We can have a fraction as long as the x is not on the bottom. We can have a fraction as a coefficient, and we can have a square root as long as it's square root of a number as a coefficient and the x is not inside of the square root. Okay, now back to this one here. If we look here, I don't see any problems. We've got all positive exponents, no fractions at all. So we're going to say, yes, this is a polynomial. Now what we're going to do is put it in standard form. Standard form is where we order the terms based off exponent. The highest exponent is a 4 right here. So we'll put that whole term first. Next biggest exponent is a 3. So we'll put that term next. Since this is positive 9 here, we're going to go plus 9x cubed. Here's our function in our polynomial here in standard form. And now let's identify the degree and the leading coefficient, which at this point are going to be easy to do. Degree, I'll abbreviate it with the D. Degree is always the largest exponent, which we already found was a 4. And the leading coefficient, which I'll abbreviate here with LC, is the coefficient in front of the x with the biggest exponent. So once it's in standard form, that's going to be this first number. And we're done.